computer.
No.
I always hate it when I forget to do that. And so today we have Kelly Legarreta. I'm not sure if she's going to be joining us. She is a, oh, we got some dogs joining us. That's good. Because there we are going to be talking about dogs. How appropriate is that? The dogs know we're going to be talking about them. And they love when getting treated. Probably helps if I bring my microphone over here. Is that better sound?
Yes.
Kelly Legarreta has a great practice down in Florida. She's also a professional actress and does Guys and Dolls. Right now she's in a play called Guys and Dolls. Guys and Dolls in down in Florida. I'm not sure exactly where she is, Tampa or something like that, but like an evening dinner theater or something like that. And so she's very talented, but she took a lot of time and put a lot of effort into putting a video together for us. It's about an hour long, and it really goes into a lot more other things. All right, and someone's got the radio going. Hey, Teresa got first place this last weekend at her 55-mile endurance race. Wow, that's fantastic! I remember you saying you were going to go to a race, 55 miles. That's a long way. How long did that take you? How many hours did that take you?
Well, the race took me. My ride time was like 7:49. It's a very hard race.
So almost 8 hours in the saddle.
Yeah, in the mountains of Virginia, West Virginia. It's a brutal ride as part of the Old Dominion. It's not easy.
Oh, wow. So there was a lot of up and down?
Yeah, well, lots of up and down, lots of granite, lots of rock. And then the second loop is technically like 27 miles long. And we have a little aid station. And they had to do a new section of trail, which was absolutely gorgeous. But it's a very challenging ride because you could trot along and then all of a sudden you just hit like beds of rocks. And then you got to walk and then you can trot a little, then you got to walk. And there's a lot of climbing. It's a very strenuous ride.
Wow.
Last year I got 6th place. This year I finally got 1st place. I wasn't actually really trying for 1st place, but my horse, AKA the Dragon, doesn't like other horses in front of her, so I just let her have her way.
That's great. That's great. Well, congratulations, and I'm sure you pulsed before and after extenuously.
Yes.
That's a word. I don't know if extenuously that isn't even a word, but that's great. That's great. And you know there are so many people that give great testimonials about how, when you treat yourself, you do get better endurance, strength endurance, and all that.
Yes, I'm a testament to that because I'm not so sore because I pulsed.
And isn't that great?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's a great thing. We're gardeners, and it's planting season here in North Carolina, and so we have been building these raised beds, and which means we've been importing a lot of dirt and shoveling it out of my pickup truck. And we also put layers down of leaves and spoiled hay and manure and then dirt and make these great raised beds. But yeah, normally I'd be so sore I could barely move right about now. But I've pulsed 90 minutes today and 90 minutes yesterday, and I feel great. Not even sore a little bit. So yeah, it's amazing when you stay on top of it what you can get your body to do. So well, we've got a bunch of people on, and I am going to get this baby going, and we're going to listen to Kelly for a while. Hopefully she'll be able to join us afterwards. But then afterwards, since this is week 7. We really only have 1 more week to go of these live calls. You, of course, get a full year of access to all of the courses, videos, and everything in the replays And of course, Sherry and Sam and I are always available for any kind of calls that you want, but any kind of questions you always have. So, but next week, really, we're gonna just open the mic up and talk about all kinds of competitive information, all the different types of PEMF systems that are out there, the different competition that you're up against, and answer really any questions that you guys have. Hey, Leslie's here.
Hi.
Hi. How's the little one?
Good. She's asleep and I'm still working.
Oh, it looks like you're in the barn.
I am.
Yep, pulsing.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. That's good. So everybody, I'm just gonna mute everybody, and we're gonna turn this thing on, and it's about an hour long. And Kelly really goes into some great things. I mean, I listened to this thing, and I learned so much from it. So she talks a lot about mindset, and really all kinds of really great things about how to deal with customers, and besides just learning how to treat horses. So even if you don't treat dogs, this is really something that you should be able to get a lot out of. So oops, I probably need to turn on my share first. All right, that reminds me, I'm gonna better mute everybody.
Aren't you guys going to Michelle's graduation?
Yes, we're doing that too.
Someone is on that I'm not.
That's good.
Yeah.
Leave.
I
Why?
All right, who is? Someone is. Whose dog's barking? You're not muted. Looks like everybody says they're muted. Whoever has a dog barking, mute your thing.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kelly. I'm really excited that John and Sherry asked me to do this. It's such an honor to be part of this amazing course, and I'm learning so much from all of you. I can't thank you enough. They asked me if I would come on and
Not giving me options.
a canine session.
That makes sense.
My practice is canines, but I would say equine is getting up there at the moment. I just don't have enough time to go to multiple barns, so I'm affiliated.
John, we can't hear it.
All right, I'm going to restart that. I'm going to restart it.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kelly.
Now can you hear?
I'm really excited that John and Sherry asked me to do this.
Yes, we can hear.
To be part of this amazing course, and I'm learning so much from all of you. I can't thank you enough. They asked me if I would come on and show you a canine session. The majority of my practice is canines, but I would say equine is getting up there at the moment. I just don't have enough time to go to multiple barns, so I'm affiliated with a couple, and definitely looking forward to building more of my clientele as the year progresses this year. But I'll tell you a little bit about myself. And this is my girl Kai. She's an 11-year-old Australian Shepherd, and she's actually never been to my office before. So this is going to be really interesting to see how she reacts. There's really no reason to take her here because there's no place to put her while I'm working with other clients, and so she's having a good time. She's having an outing with mom. But anyway, I'm Kelly Legarreta, and I have been a canine and equine massage therapist for about 15 years now, maybe a little more. My husband and I are also professional actors, and we've been working for over 25 years professionally. It's been pretty amazing, and I met him on a theater contract. I grew up riding and training horses and being a dog lover and always wanting to be a veterinarian. I was determined to go to a college with an equine program as well as a theater program, but that didn't really work out, and I ended up going for just theater. And when I was on my way to New York, and I had my actors union card, my equity card, and I met my husband, and that changed, life changes. And he was the artistic director of a theater, or he became one after we got married. And he asked me, there was only one union theater here. A union actor can only work at a union theater. And I knew I wasn't going to work there every show for the rest of my life. So I gave up my union card so I could work at other theaters along with him. And he said, is there anything else you really ever wanted to do besides acting, since we really don't want to be away from each other all the time, traveling to New York and things like that? And I said, I've always wanted to work with animals, and I've always secretly wanted to be a massage therapist. That was actually going to be my actor's side hustle. I didn't really want to be a waitress, but I wanted to work helping people and being holistic, and I thought that would be a really great way for me to have as my side job. So I started researching, and I found the Rocky Mountain School of Animal Acupressure and Massage, and the fairy dust fell from the ceiling, and I was so excited. I'm like, this is me, massage therapy, animals, this is great. So I went out and I got certified. It was actually a really tough course. At the time, it was 7 days, large animal, small animal, massage, and acupressure. That's a lot in 7 days. I did study for a year before I went out to take the hands-on course and testing. And I was really surprised that it was really difficult, and a lot of the actual massage therapists that were there were dropping out of the course. And I always felt like I needed more of a therapeutic background, but I started my business and it went really well. And at that time, I also was getting a lot of behavior calls. People were asking me, what you can do for behavior. And I thought, I love doing this. So I became a dog trainer as well. I went out and got certified. And so I did massage and training and dog sports. That's how I fell in love with dog sports. And since I fell in love with dog sports, I wanted to do more for the animal athletes for massage than just therapeutic. And so I decided it was time to go to really get my human license, and I did, and I'm so glad I did. I learned so much, and it kind of made things fall into place. Most people do it the reverse. They're human therapists and then they go get certified for animals, but I did it the opposite direction. And at that time, the school that I had been to had also developed their programs more, and they had split it. So now it was small animal, therapeutic massage level 1, sports massage level 2, senior massage level 3, and the same thing with the equine program. And they also had a separate acupressure program, and I wanted to be part of this so badly. So I contacted the school and the owners at the time, and I said, I'm alumni, I love it, I want to take more courses. Can I assist? Can I observe? Can I? And she said, we're looking for a teacher in Florida. And that totally came out of left field. And she said, you said you just got your massage therapy license? And I said, I did. And she said, well, if you're interested, we'd love to have you. And I couldn't believe it. So I went back and I took all the courses, and I got my teacher training, and I became the Florida instructor. So it was actually really neat. All of the instructors taught in Colorado, and I taught everything here in Florida. And I'd always had a dog training center, so I had a place for people to come, and the classes were intensive. The canine was 4 days each level, the equine was 5 days each level, and I taught them all back to back, and I learned a lot. The best way to learn something is to teach something, and so I loved helping people begin their careers in animal massage. The only drawback was that I've still always been working full-time as an actor, and it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time preparing for the course, being the sole person who handles all of the paperwork, testing, evaluating, helping people on their individual journeys. It was a lot, and I really didn't have a whole lot of time for my own practice. And that was okay for the 6 years that I taught, but the towards the end of my stint teaching, I just really missed my own clients and my own practice. I just didn't see them enough. So I decided to stop teaching for a while and devote my time to that practice. And somewhere in that time period, I had an equine practitioner talk to me about PEMF, and I was really kind of impressed with it. I've always been a more gentle therapist, which is why I resonate working with animals so much. I do trigger point therapy. I'm certified in canine, and I'm actually currently getting my equine trigger point therapy. And on animals, it's a little different. We never go past the pain threshold, but I've never been the kind of therapist that wants to work incredibly deep. There are amazing therapists out there that do that, and their gift to pain relief and getting the muscle to relax is amazing, but that's not the kind that I'm attracted to. And when I discovered PEMF and I realized what a powerful technology it was that could do more than my hands ever could and be gentle and relaxing and make a being feel as good as they do, I was like, this is me. This is totally me. And I actually took my husband out to see the machine work on a horse, and he was astounded. And he's a skeptic. He was like, what are we doing? Where are we going? What are we looking at? And when he saw the pulsing of the horse and he saw it work, he didn't know what it was. He said, if I saw you put that on my horse, he goes, you would be my therapist. And I'm like, you don't even know what it does. And he's like, exactly. He's like, you need that. And that made me laugh. And so with his approval, because it's, it was a big investment, I decided to get it. I financially had to wait to I decided I wasn't going to do dog training anymore. I wanted to focus on my massage clients. I did many years working at the Humane Society way back in 2009, and then again a couple years ago. And it's hard work. It's really hard work. I was the education and training director and the volunteer coordinator, and it takes a lot out of you. And I guess that's what made me realize that I needed to take a break from that aspect of my job and focus on more of the things that kind of fill my cup and make me happy. And so I've always been a teacher at heart, and maybe someday I'll go back to it, but right now I'm having a really good time. I'm doing 2 amazing jobs that I love. I get to perform 9 shows a week, most of the time with my husband, and then I see clients every other waking minute. So it's been pretty amazing. And my office, complete manifestation of abundance, hi Pumpkin, is that when I gave up my training studio, and my husband was actually on the national tour of the Wizard of Oz and I was alone, I said, I have to find a small treatment office, because once I got my machine, I realized I needed to have an office again. I couldn't be mobile because I was spending all my time in the car. I had to have an office where people and dogs could come see me again. And so I manifested, I said it has to be close to the theater, or it has to be close to my home, because I have to be able to get home to my dogs and take care of them, or get to work without traffic. It's not a job I can be late to. And so, lo and behold, I never knew I've been working for this particular theater for almost 15 years, on and off in the past, but full-time recently. And I never knew that there was a wellness spa upstairs. And the gentleman who owns a cafe downstairs and was leasing a room. And I called him and I said, I'm a massage therapist, but my practice is mainly dogs. And he was so fascinated, and he knew what PEMF was, and he said, come on and see the room. And I did, and he leased it to me, and it is in the shopping center where our theater is located. So literally I come here, I see clients all morning, and then I walk next door and do a show, and then come back, see clients possibly, or go home. And the only drawback, sometimes I have a little extra makeup on when I see my clients, but they all understand. But it's amazing. Both my full-time jobs are in the same shopping center. So it's absolutely incredible. It's amazing what you can do when you put out into the universe, like, this is what needs to happen to make everything fall in line. So anyway, so here we are in my beautiful little office. I've been here a little over a year. I found it a few months after I got my machine. So I have the EQX, which when I start working, you'll be able to see. Many of you guys have been doing this for many years. I hope I can give you something that you can take away. I'm gonna start working on her in just a minute. I throw in a few tidbits from massage that I do, some remnants from when I taught massage, things that make me feel comfortable in connecting with an animal. The only drawback, not a drawback, but the only huge difference I see, I do the exact same loop positions on dogs than we do on horses. The only difference is that dogs aren't still. Horses, most of the time, they can be cross-tied or held by somebody if they can't be cross-tied. But dogs, they don't stay in the same position. They're wily, they get excited, they get nervous. Having an office is a wonderful thing, and there's also many cons to it because first-time clients don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if they're at a vet's office and people are walking outside. There are other therapists in this entire office, and it's not always the most conducive to being calm and relaxed. And so being able to work with a dog and let go of the outcome, I feel, and the outcome of them being able to sit completely still for an entire session, I believe allowing the dog to be a dog and doing everything you can to get them to stay with you and be calm and relaxed and get the most out of their session, but you can't expect them to lay completely still. And also, I never want the pet parent to feel like their dog is being bad, ever. They're just being a dog and they're nervous. They have no idea what I'm doing. Now, don't get me wrong. My regular clients are like, massage lady, and they come and lay down, roll over on their belly or go right to sleep. And so, they get the drift. But I don't want everybody to be frustrated if a dog won't sit for an entire session the first time. So I'll give you some handling techniques. I'll give you some of the ways I start and end a session. I probably won't do a complete PEMF session on Kai just because you don't need to see the same thing you've seen on a horse, but I'll show you how I put the loops on and some of the extra positions and how I get through a session. So I'm gonna stop the video now because I'm having problems uploading it. So John and Sherry are going to help me with that, and then I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, we're back. So people always want to know where should you massage or do a PEMF session with the dog. I always say it's up to what you have available to you, and it's also up to the dog. I do have a massage table that I will put pups on, but I prefer to only do that at events where I know things can get a little crazy. Sometimes it's a little easier to put the dog up on a table where there's less circumference for them to try to get away from you, but at an agility trial with a really hopped up dog, that gives you another problem of trying to keep them on the table and make sure that they don't jump off because they're really excited, because the last thing that you want to do is an injury from a dog jumping off the table and hurting themselves. So I really only use tables at events, or for example, there's an Airedale Terrier client of mine that is real nervous when she's on the floor, but she's so used to being groomed so frequently that if you put her on a table, she's like, oh, it's a grooming session and we're fine. So I just actually make sure I have a table for her because she's much better. The situation to her just seems easier. Hi, Pumpkin Beetle. I do have a stool in my office, a rolly stool. For dogs, bigger dogs that don't like to lay down, I'll sit on the stool because it's easier on my back. When I do a session, normally I sit with my legs out like this with the dog in front of me, and I just try to be careful of my lower back. But if I sit with my legs crossed, they inevitably fall asleep. So this is my favorite way to hang. And if the dog wants to lay down in a bed, they're more than happy to. Most dogs, once they get to know what I'm doing, will lay down right in front of me like she does. And I'll adjust the camera angle a little bit better when we get down to actually do a session. So it's really up to you and the dog. When I go to people's houses, they're like, where do you want them? And I say, wherever they're most comfortable. A bed, a couch, I'll sit on the couch. The things that we have to do when working with dogs is really take care of our bodies because they really don't make it easy. When I taught the massage courses, I would be amused when all the students would sit with their backs against the wall and, trying to have good body mechanics and then expect the dog to come lay right there and not move for the entire time. And I was like, I wish it was that easy, but it's not always going to be like that. So finding a comfortable way to sit, stretching, breathing, grounding, taking deep breaths, we got to keep our bodies healthy. It's not always the easiest. But I will sit on this rolly stool and I love it because it rolls and I can kind of scoot around if the dog walks just a little bit. But wherever you're most comfortable is totally fine. There's no rules. Kai has a harness on right now, and I'll probably take it off because she's going to sit with me. It's okay to leave collars on. It's okay to leave harnesses on. It's okay to leave the leash on. Just be careful if you ever get nervous that you're not holding the leash too tight and causing a little bit of pressure on their airways. I don't mind if the owner helps me hold the dog. I just want to make sure that that they don't worry about if the dog is doing something wrong. There's a great term, I think it's called uncluttered contact. If you have pet parents that like to talk a lot, sometimes you have to gently set boundaries if you don't want to talk. An example is that Kai is a great demo dog in massage school because if the students were extra nervous or not focused on her or asking too many questions or just nervous, she would get up and walk away. But if you focused on her and you were breathing and you had your intentions in the right place, then she was out like a light and the best dog. So it's okay to talk to pet parents if you want to, especially since some of you just do PEMF and not massage. It's, there's not a whole lot that you're doing other than observing the dog with the loops on them and making sure, watching their reactions and their releases and their comfort level and things like that. So setting boundaries, a lot of times I'll tell the pet parent, I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. I want to focus on your dogs because sometimes their reactions are really slight, but they're very powerful, and I want to make sure that I don't miss it. So I don't want you to think that I'm not talking to you. I'm just really focusing on your dog. And that kind of sets, instead of saying, don't talk to me, you know what I mean? And so it sets it up to let them know that you're trying to be quiet on purpose and that you're not ignoring them. And I always say, if you need to ask me a question, you're more than welcome to. I recently, it's behind the camera, but I just got a TV in my office. I was hemming and hawing about whether I should put another electronic device in my office, and I'm a little sensitive to that sort of thing. But sometimes I feel people are uncomfortable just sitting in those chairs watching me work, so I have cute puppies and calming music, and I wanted to be able to put on healing frequencies from YouTube, and I'm getting a DVD player so that I can play whole tones. So when I have clients in here, I have the chair over to my right here. I have the chair pad. I wanted to be able to set the frequencies to whatever their issues are, so that could be playing while they're getting their PEMF therapy. And I do use aromatherapy in my office, but it's very slight. Dogs have something like billions of receptors versus our millions in their noses, and so I'm very careful with what I use. Sometimes the oils are more for the people than the dogs, so I'll strategically put one by the chair I know they're going to be sitting in. I think if we're all calm, then that really helps the animal as set the mood. Back to equipment, harnesses. The only thing that I'll take off if I find that I don't need it is a harness, but I'll always take off a prong collar. My fear is that I wouldn't want a dog to get accidentally corrected if he moved away from me really quickly. I don't want them to have any negative associations to getting work done by me, so I just make sure that, and like I said, leashes and collars and harnesses are fine. I just work around them, but I'll take everything off, especially since we're in a very small area. There's not really a lot of places they can go. My office is only like 300 square feet, so that's the benefit of having a smaller office. I have a bed here. I keep blankets. I have pee pads in case I have a dog that has incontinence issues. I've worked on many dogs with some form of paralysis or loss of use, and so it's no problem to put a pee pad under whatever we're working on. It's not a big deal. It never bothers me. Sometimes pet parents are embarrassed. It's okay, and I try to tell them it's okay. Whatever your dog does is fine. I just want them to feel comfortable, and if we don't get through a whole session today, it's fine. They'll get used to it, and we'll work on it more. I do everything I can, to give a good, complete session, but there's no right or wrong their dog can do with me, as long as they don't bite me. I watch their body language, and we're going to be fine. I have only had one dog where they were just too frightened of the loops, where I just put my chair pad on the floor and we laid on the floor and got a session that way. And I've also done an older dog who mom really wanted her to have more of a massage than PEMF, but I felt like she would benefit from PEMF more, so we did the massage on the chair pad. So that works too, and you can put a blanket on your chair pad or just set that on the ground. The chair pad is just skinnier than buying the actual pet pad, so when you have a big dog, you kind of have to slide them on to make sure that they don't fall off. But that's it. I have two 2 tips to give you that have really helped me out. So this is an interval timer. It's called a Gym Boss, and it's purple, just like me. Have you noticed I like purple? I'm sad my office isn't purple, but when I got it, it was like this really nice shade of green on the wall. So I'm like, oh, I like that. But anyway, this is an interval timer, and I bought it off Amazon, like $15, something like that. And I liked it so much, I actually got another one in a different color. This is my horse timer. This is set to buzz on vibrate. It has a beep too, but obviously I want the vibrate because I don't want to scare any of the dogs. This is set to buzz every 2 minutes for 30 minutes. So 15 times 2 minutes a buzz. And I love it. And then my horse one is set to buzz every 2 minutes, 30 times. So it's an hour session. And I wear it on my belt, or sometimes I'll clip it here. The only difference wearing it here is because I never want dogs are more sensitive to sounds than the horses are. Usually there's a lot going on at a barn and they don't really hear the buzz, but it goes and I don't ever want it to mimic the sound of an electric collar or an e-collar, and also sometimes it just scares the dogs. So depending on the dog, unless I really need to see it, I usually clip it on my belt or behind me so I can just feel it buzz. And this is amazing, especially because I do massage and PEMF, I sometimes get a little lost in what I'm doing and I forget to move the loops. So the little buzz just reminds me, just scoot the loops back to the next position, and then I can keep working on the area that I'm working on. So this has been a godsend. It's called a Gym Boss interval timer. You can get them off Amazon. They come in many colors, and I even bought the accessory set. There's a lanyard and an armband and blah, 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 in case I ever needed to, what I was wearing wasn't working, or I couldn't feel it or hear it in my clothes or things like that. I know those of you who work up north, if you're wearing tons of clothes, you might not be able to feel it buzz. So being able to have it close to you or on your arm so that you can see it might help. So anyway, so that's my little interval timer. And they're really easy to set. This one I actually set for an event. I was doing 5-minute demos, and I tend to go really long because I always want people to get a longer session. Like, I'm so bad with that. I'm like, just sit a little longer. But it was so busy, and so this really kind of kept me on track with doing PEMF demos for 5 minutes. So my little Gym Boss timers are great. Starting a session, I wonder if I can get her to move back with me. If a dog has a sit or a down, you can always ask, but I don't harp on it for 2 reasons. I don't want the pet parent to feel like, again, their dog is doing something wrong. And some people really think their dog knows sit or down, and they really don't. And it's okay. It's okay. But we can always try. Yes, I have cookies in my office. No, I don't keep them in my pocket because some dogs are really food hounds, and that just drives them crazy, and then they can't settle down at all. And so I'm going to see if I can get her to move back with me so you can see. She's actually being really good. It's early in the morning, so no one's in here. She's probably going to start barking if people start coming in and out. But the way that I open a session is a remnant from my acupressure days. So I always do 3 Effleurage strokes. Sorry, I have hair in my lipstick. 3 Effleurage strokes, which are long strokes with a flat hand. Great for warming up tissue, great for flushing tissue to get lactic acid out of the area, especially when you've really been working on something. But I always do 3 Effleurage strokes along the Bladder Meridian. And I do this to open the dog's body energetically to receive treatment. And so the meridians in horses, dogs, people, they're all the same. So the Bladder Meridian, for those of you who don't know, and if those of you who know acupressure, forgive the repeat, but I think this is really cool. Your Bladder Meridian starts in the corner of your eyes and goes up over your head, down the back, down your back, kind of laterally, out your legs, and then out your pinky toe. It's the longest meridian in the body, and the cool thing about it is that along either side of the spine, it has all of the association points for all of the other organs. It's called the back shu points, SHU. And depending on what type of acupressure you are doing, I don't do a whole lot of acupressure. I just keep some of the master points in my back pocket for like big pain points and stomach points and things like that. But along the back shu points are every organ system. It's like the master point to every organ system. And so like the breaker box. You're flipping all the breaker box switches to open the body to all of the other meridians. And so even if you weren't doing acupressure, it's a nice way to get in touch with the dog. And also there's a specific massage called a nervous system massage that's very calming. And I tell people whose dogs are nervous at vets' offices, or even coming to the office, or if they're nervous, that doing long effleurage strokes down either side of the spine will definitely help calm their dog, because you are literally stroking the nervous system. Remember, fast strokes are invigorating, slow strokes are calming. I've had the privilege of working with many dogs in shows, and I was a consultant for Toto on The Wizard of Oz, and Sandy and Annie, and one of the Dorothys that was holding the Toto on stage, she thought she was keeping him calm by scratching him the entire time, and he was not having it. He was wiggly and trying to get away from her, and he didn't want to be with her on stage. And they're like, Kelly, what can we do? And I was like, well, let me watch. And I was like, well, this is the reason. So I had to really work with her. And it was also a nervous thing for her. I was like, you either got to hold him and not touch him, or you got to do long, slow strokes. And it really something that she had to practice, because it was a nervous thing on stage. And he was just going wild. He just couldn't take it. So I completely understand. And also, when you're thinking about massage and doing things, one stroke to one breath. So I can't imagine an animal not calming down if you're literally moving in rhythmic moves, one stroke to one breath. Usually everyone in the room will calm down like that. So effleurage strokes along the back is a great way to calm them down. I also try to keep my hand on the animal as much as possible, just like a horse. You really don't want to break contact, but you do what you can. Your intention is there. And so I do 3 Bladder Meridian effleurages from the top of the head, down the back, and out the pinky toe to open the breaker box before I begin any kind of session, massage or PEMF. And then I do 3 at the end to close the session. And it's really neat. The dogs begin to kind of understand, oh, she's beginning, and oh, it's over. And I've had dogs wake up out of a deep sleep at the very last effleurage stroke at the end along the Bladder Meridian, like, we're done. So that's always great. Before we begin any session, I created an acronym when I used to teach group massage classes for regular pet parents, and I always say to check your list. And L stands for love. Always check your love, because we love what we do, we love our animal. I stands for intention, and I really think this is half the battle. What is your intention for the session? Is it to connect with your dog? I mean, this is talking to pet parents. Is it pain relief? Is it relaxation? Are we focusing on an injury? But check why you're doing it, and it's also a good way as a practitioner to check in with ourselves, just to remember, that we need to be focused on our animal and our job, and let things go at the door, or the barn door, or the stall door, that sort of thing. The other thing was surroundings. Horses, it's pretty given where you're going to be working on them, but if you have a nervous horse, you're not going to work on them in a big traffic area of the barn. Dogs, if there are children running around, if it's a busy time of day at the office, what can you do to help make the surroundings as conducive as physically possible to a massage? And the last thing is your touch. The T in list is touch, is to make sure that you're confident and gentle. If you're nervous or not breathing, the dogs will know it. They also know our intention the moment they see us too. But making sure to check your touch to make sure that you are sending signals that you got this, and that you're never going to hurt them, and that you know what you're doing, and to trust you is really important. So check your list: love, intention, surroundings, and trust. And then we can begin the session. So I'm going to stop this one more time and get set up to do a PEMF session on Kai Kai. Okay. All right, guys, we're back. So I'm going to take Kai's harness off, because I don't think she really needs it. So she's probably going to stay with me. Hi. And I turned the video a little bit, so I might not be looking right directly at you. Hi, Pumpkin. She usually pretty much knows the drill, but you can usually ask her to lay down. Lay down. You can lay down that way. Awesome. Just out of camera reach, so I'm going to slide her back. There we go. You're such a funny monkey. So Kai is 11 years old, and she is a retired agility dog. She's done many sports. She's played a little bit of fly ball, and she loves to swim and dock dive, and she loves frisbee. She has a couple issues. She had some knee surgery. She has border collie collapse, which is where something is going on in her nervous system that makes her have a seizure when she gets overexcited. So her sport career is kind of done, but she's still a high drive monkey, and we play as often as we can. I need to actually massage her and do PEMF more than we do. But she's never been to the office, so hopefully she'll lie still. But usually I spend a couple minutes just kind of like saying hello and running my hands all over them just to see, you know, their reactions and how they feel, and if I get any paniculus response. And paniculus response is that twitching, you know, when a horse twitches his shoulder to get his fly off, that's a paniculus. But you can actually get it when there are areas of tension. So usually check her back along the spine. I'm getting a lot of paniculus response here, so she's got a lot of back tension. And I will also, while I'm doing this, I will do my 3 Effleurage strokes along the Bladder Meridian to open her body for treatment. It's just a habit. I've done it for a really long time, and it's a really good way to connect with her. While you're doing a massage, you are looking for the same things as you would with a horse. You are looking for lip licking, yawning, releasing, passing gas. All of those things are great signs of energy moving and stress being released. And also usually in the session, I will turn my machine on so they can get used to the noise. And that way, if that bothers them, they have a little while to get used to it. Make sure my machine's turned down. And then when I'm ready to begin the session, I'll usually press my little button. This one is set, again, for 30 minutes to move the loops every 2 minutes. And I'm not going to do a whole full session with you, but we're just going to get an idea of what's going on. So Kylie's down pretty easy for me, but again, it doesn't matter what she would be doing. If she wanted to sit up, if she wanted to move around, I would do my best to keep her with me, but my little stool is rolly, and thankfully the loops are long, and so we can usually get a good session going. But I'm going to use the medium loops on her, but I'll be honest with you, the smaller loops would work on her too. They just wouldn't cover as much of a surface area. It's really cute to me when I have tiny itty bitty little dogs. I work on a 4-pound agility Pomeranian, and the loops cover his entire body. It's adorable. But what I'll do is I'll just move the loops in smaller increments down his back. And so, usually just nonchalantly place the loops. I start in the same positions as you would a horse, right over the shoulder positions, and I start real low, and she doesn't seem to be bothered by that. Like I said, Kai really hasn't had too much PEMF, especially a whole body session. I've done, I think, a little piece of you now and then. But I'm looking for all the same things. I don't necessarily, with dogs, I feel like dogs are just a little more sensitive. And so I'm not necessarily looking for the pulsing to be happening right off the bat. If I don't think they have any reaction to it whatsoever, I'll turn it up slightly. But as long as I can feel it in my hands, I think we're doing pretty okay. Oh, I already got a big yawn, and her eyes are going sleepy. Does that feel good, my pumpkin? I love you so much. So when my little buzzer would buzz, I would scoot it back down to just behind the shoulder. And then again, trying to cover all of the surface area of their body and their back. You see her get real still. So their eyes say everything. She was like, what are you doing? And then I would continue to move the loops down her back. So dogs sometimes will lay down flat, and obviously I can't get to the hip that's on the ground. So I will do everything else that I possibly can before I ask her to move. The dogs don't care what order we do it in, and in reality, neither do the horses, as long as we're covering all the big muscle groups. But having a system or a protocol really helps us make sure that we don't forget anything, and so that's absolutely what I try to do. So after the next back position, I'll move it down even more. And now we're covering her lower lumbar and lower back. And then I'd move it back down to the hips. Oh, and now I'm getting some pulsing, definitely. So, hi, does that feel good? So, I can gently see her little hair moving and getting some pulsing in her bicep femoris. And it looks like it feels good. She's giving me slow blinks, and she's easily panting. She doesn't look uncomfortable. And we got some lip licking. And I love that she's tuned in. She's totally tuned in to me right now. But that relaxed face is something that we really, really want, and I got more lip licking. So it's the same stuff that we're looking for with horses. So you want to lay down flat? You can do whatever you want. So after I moved back again to cover the hamstrings, after I did my 2 mitts in this position, I again would take the loops and make sure that it's turned down before, because they're stronger when they're together, and I would lay them over the big area of her leg. So I love this position on dogs because they're so small, is that the actual strongest part of the loops is actually covering her stifle, touching her stifle, and I think that's really great. So the stifle is the weakest joint for a couple of reasons. The main one being that all of our bones in our body fit together like puzzle pieces, all of them. Everything else intersects, interlocks, and they kind of help stabilize themselves, except the stifle joint. They're the only bones in the body that actually sit on top. So the femur sits on top of the fibula and tibia, and there's nothing that they lock into. So the things that hold it together are those ligaments and the ACL and CCL on the inside, kind of like a thread holding them together. So that's why they're so prone to injury. And same with people, same with horses. And usually, not always, but a lot of times when the dog has an ACL or CCL problem, it usually means that the other side is taking the brunt of all of the issues, and that they're most likely going to have issues on the other side too. So that's always a really hard thing. So being able to do PEMF therapy to both sides in order to keep both knees strong and healthy is really, really amazing. So she laid down. She's actually really, really liking this. And there's a couple ways I can go after this. I can, since she's still lying upright, sort of, not directly on her side, I can actually kind of fit the loops in to do her other hip. Or if I really want to target the psoas muscle underneath, we don't do this position on the horse because I think it would be too dangerous to get in that area. But just like we slip the loops up over the front leg on a horse, you can actually do it to them as well. So I'm just gonna, hi, she says, what are you doing, mama? I was trying to put your other leg through. So, and then we can slip it on here, and really target that psoas muscle and all of the adductors, and you're really getting really, really good pulsing on her hamstrings back here. So dogs carry 60% of their weight on their front end, and their back end is for propulsion, pushing forward. And so I work on a lot of dogs with those adductors and those hamstrings really, 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 really tight. So we can do this position. Oh, I got some lip licking, and her eyes are really sleepy. Oh, it's a big yawn. That all means stress release. That's so good. It's so good. You're such a good girl. I'm just leaving in here because she seems to really like it. The other leg is her surgery knee. And so this is the knee that takes all of the compensatory issues. Another thing about dogs lying on their side is that the amazing thing about our system is that it goes a foot or 16 inches into tissue, which means that, God forbid, I couldn't get the dog to get on the side that I wanted. I know that this is going all the way through. And if I really didn't want to make a dog move, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to make a 16-year-old lab that is finally settled and comfortable get up just so I can do the other hip. It's just not worth it to make them get up. So I will take the loops and I will do every position I possibly can think of to get in there, knowing that the PEMF is going where it needs to go. Another safeguard that we have is that the body has a mirror reflex, meaning anything that you do to one side, the body sends the same signals to the other. Isn't that nice to know that, you know, if you couldn't get to one side, or let's say the dog had a cast or the horse had a cast, that it's okay that you don't have to massage right over the area, that the body is going to send the same signals. So that's a great thing. Now, if I wanted to get down the leg, if I wanted, like, let's say they had a paw injury, you could sandwich the leg between the loops if you wanted to, just like that, or you could just lay the loops right on the injury. And you can, I keep my small loops nearby, so in case I need to switch apparatus and get the smaller loops, I absolutely can. So after I finished, we did shoulder, and then just behind the shoulder, and then mid back, and then lower back, and then hips and SI joint. and then glutes and bicep femoris, and then a little bit back on the hamstring, and then double the loops over the back leg, and then the arm through the hole position, I don't know what else to call it, for the psoas. So I've done all of those, and then I would probably, because she's still sitting like this and I want to take advantage of the position that she's in, I would go back and I would put the double loops on her shoulder, or do the same thing, do the same thing so that we can get in there. So you're getting her pecs, her biceps, her subscap underneath, and obviously her biceps and triceps, and all of the deltoid and the inverse spinatus and supraspinatus and everything in that area. So her whole shoulder junction. And she doesn't really seem to mind it being under her arm. I'm not too concerned about their paws. If they don't like their paws being touched, I just do the very best I can. I'm sure if I had the paddles, it'd be a little bit easier to do their paws instead of trying to maneuver them around the holes, but someday I might invest in the paddles. But for right now, I do the best I can with either sandwiching the loops or just laying the loops on top. Hi, how is that? So since she's still laying like this, I would come back and take advantage of doing the other shoulder. Do you know how much I love you? What a good girl you are. I would go ahead and do the other shoulder while she's still sitting up in this position, and you can rub them and scratch them. I mean, if dogs like their ears being scratched, in order to make them feel better when you're working on them, or if they're nervous. I do a couple of dachshunds. They're both dachshunds, ironically, but they need to eat a Kong while I work on them. Not the best situation. Same with horses eating hay. You kind of would rather watch their reactions to make sure everything's going okay. But if the horse just won't stand still, I mean, there's no reason why they can't eat hay or the same thing, a dog eat a Kong. The only thing I ask is that if they're going to be territorial or resource guard the toy, I don't want them to think I'm going for the toy if I'm working around. So those are the only dogs that you just kind of have to do what you can if they won't sit still, but they are a resource guarder. But my two dachshunds will happily eat a frozen Kong while I do a whole PEMF session, and that's fine. So after the shoulder position, I'll do the same thing. I will try to get her paw in and kind of Punky. Hi, and get the shoulder apparatus in there. I love Bug. And it's on, the machine's on really low, I want to say. Oh, that's my girl. Oh, and she flipped over. I was going to show you how to get him on the other hip, but she actually rolled away from me. So since she did that, I would take advantage and I would do that hip and that leg. Let me turn the machine off for just a second. If the machine was up higher as I did the sessions, I would definitely turn it down as I moved it and gently turn it back up. So it's really nice to sit close to the machine, but it was on so low that I don't think turning it down any farther would have made a difference for her. It is absolutely okay to let them get up and take a break, especially at the beginning, especially if it's a dog that you don't know. It's fine. As long as I don't think they're going to pee anywhere. I'm not really worried about anything. And also, pet parents are notorious for not letting their dogs pee before they bring them up to your office, or before letting you work on them. Say, oh, we went before we left. Or, oh, they were outside this morning. No, give them a chance to potty. I've been on the massage table and all of a sudden my body's like, whoop, and then you have to pee. And I know it's horrible to get up off the massage table, but sometimes once you relax, your body really starts working and you really need it to give it the chance to go potty. So it's okay. If I thought she was circling or dancing, I'd absolutely take her out and let her go potty and come back. I'm going to show you how to get them to lie down on the opposite hip, but I'm trying to keep these little videos under 15 minutes, so give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So Kai has a tendency to lay like a sphinx with her butt straight and lay straight out, but if I wanted her to lay on her right hip, what I would want to do is turn her head this way while I asked her to lay down. Kai, lay down. Lay down. Lay down, this way. So, hi, I know. Oh, you're a good girl. So if her head goes this way, she's gonna be laying on her left hip. So she didn't do what I wanted her to do. But that's a little tip when you're asking her to lay down. Kai is really kind of easy. You can, I can actually, she's a little movable. Hi, Pumpkin. She's a good, you're my good girl. She's easy to flip. She's easy to flip like a pancake. And that's a technical term, the pancake flip. But an older dog or a dog with an injury, I'm not going to do that to. So what I can do is I can take advantage of her Hi, silly girl. Hi, silly girl. Hi, my love bug. So I get you lay down flat, and then as long as we don't twist her back, and we can just flip her like a pancake, and now I have the hip that I want. She thinks I want to play. But that is not the easiest way to flip an older dog or a dog with an injury. So what you want to do is you want to ask them to get up and reposition, or we just do what you can from the way that they are. So again, she didn't do it. He didn't do it. But if your dog, if you ask them to lay down, if you turn their face to the right, they will most likely lay on their left hip. If you turn their face to the left, they'll most likely lay on this hip. And so that's just a little maneuvering tip that I can give you, getting them to lay down, and being able to scoot them around when they're on the ground helps too. So going back over the positions with my loops. So after I finished everything and I've done all the positions, you can do the necklace position with them. They look like a space dog, but you can absolutely do that. You can always pick the loops up to reduce the intensity of it. I normally wouldn't turn it on with it on her, so I'm just gonna turn it back on. We're gonna try that again, yay! How was that, space puppy? And if you wanted to, if they're having ear issues or sinus issues, sometimes separating the loops and putting them up by their ears, that's a great way to do their face. A lot of dogs don't like to have anything covering their face, so maybe squishing the loops like around their cheeks, if you're worried about that, is a great way to get that done. So I know you're doing so well. Yes, you are. I remember we talked about intention in the list. I said, check your list. So if a dog is having an organ issue, a liver issue, a bladder issue, sometimes knowing where that organ is in the body, I'll look up pictures of them just so I can either keep it in my brain, and also if I want to do extra positions with the loops, I know where to lay them. That's part of it. But Kai, can you come back? Come here. She's like, no, I'm done. She's like, you stopped paying attention to me and we got up. So that's okay too. Kai, come here. Good girlie, good girl. So when you think about your 30-minute session, so we did loops here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, thigh, 12, psoas, 14, other thigh, 16, psoas, 18, and then shoulders, 20, and then 22, and then the other shoulder, 24, and then the shoulder apparatus, 26, and then the neck, 28, and then any other positions. I was counting in 2-minute increments. And you don't have to stick to the 2-minute rigid increments, but if you're trying to do a whole body session on a dog, that's usually the way to go. It only helps because the loops are so big and you just cover more body area that way. So 30 to 45-minute session is fine. And if you can get them to lay down on the pad, 30-minute session, as long as they'll lay down on the pad, that's the most that we can ask for. So that's basically a canine session. I try to make the area as conducive as possible. I try to help the pet parent be relaxed so I don't have to worry about what their dog is doing. I watch their facial expressions and make sure that their eyes stay soft and comfortable. If they're frightened or anything, I back off. In canine body language, it can be very, very, very subtle. A tight lip and a hard eye is something that you never want to see. If a dog freezes and looks at you, you'll know when that happens. You definitely want to stop what you're doing. If at all possible, you want to keep your face away from the dogs. Part of the problem with working with dogs on the floor, and they don't make it easy, is you have to lean over them sometimes, and you never want to put your face near a dog that you don't know, because it's a very threatening position. The statistics of children being bitten in the face are so high merely is because that they're literally face height to the dogs. And so when a dog turns around to bite or nip and their face is right there, and that's sadly one of the reasons. Most of the time it's fear-based. No one has ever really called on me to work on an aggressive dog. One time, it was a St. Bernard, and it was very aggressive, but he had a horrible neck issue, and the vet was having a hard time handling him. And this was way before I had my machine, but I wish I'd had my machine then. It would have been so much easier to work on the dog without having to physically, touch him or handle him. the vet suggested, can you get him a massage to relieve some of the tension in his neck? And we had to muzzle him and hold him down. And I said, this just isn't, it's not worth it. I mean, he's going to injure himself more trying to get away from me than the massage would ever do. And so other than that situation, I've never really had an issue with a dog that was aggressive. Most of the time they're going to be fearful. And if you go slow and you take your time and you release your expectations of what should be happening, and just work with the dog. I mentally tell all dogs, I'm here to help. You don't ever have to be afraid of me. I'm not ever going to hurt you. Please communicate with me, and we're going to be just fine. And so the hardest part, I think, really is juggling how to be personable and attentive to the pet parent without making them feel isolated. I think that's probably the hardest part of my job. When I go to in-home visits, sometimes they just go do their own thing. And when I'm at my office, they're kind of stuck because I don't want to make them step outside for half an hour and then come right back. And so, I've really never had a problem. I'm just trying to think of the things that I worry about. I'm empathic. I want everyone to be comfortable. I want my dog to have a great session, and I want my pet parent to feel loved when they're in the room with me, even though I'm not paying attention to them. So that's my own issue. But those are the hardest things that I juggle. And also I have a tendency to book myself too close together. Sometimes a dog needs extra time to settle down. And so I need to try and give myself a buffer in case we didn't get started right away. But that's it. That's all I can think of. Being flexible, being able to move with your dog, not worrying about them staying in the same place all the time, watching their body language, keeping the machine low to their comfort level, just like you would a horse. One of the benefits about teaching canine and equine massage was that I was pretty up on my anatomy when I was teaching, because I was always trying to help other people remember, and sometimes if you don't use it, you lose it. So, I just bought myself an equine coloring book, and I have a canine one I'm going to be redoing in a little while, breaking out backstage, so I can color and just kind of keep up with learning anatomy. I'm really good with the muscles. I want to learn more about the nervous system and that sort of thing. So I continue to take courses. I'm taking 50 online courses right now, and I love every minute of it. I'm really excited. The show I'm doing right now gives me, I have a small role, so I get to sit backstage. It's how I'm catching up on all of the webinars is backstage, and funny makeup and wigs, just going, oh God, I gotta go on stage, but I want to hear a little bit more. So it's the only time I'm actually forced to sit down. But that's all I can think of right now. I'm excited I think we're gonna do a Facebook Live where I can answer any questions that you guys have. I hope this helped a little bit. And I'm so excited to be here and so honored to be part of this program. I love my job. I'm so grateful that I get to do it every day. I get to do all the things that I love, and that's it. I'm just a lucky girl. So from me and Kai, we say thanks, and I'll be talking to you soon. Okay, bye.
All right, that was Kelly Legarreta, and she just did a phenomenal job. We're so lucky to have that as a part of our course. I just took a full page of notes that of things that I want to remember, and I thought maybe we could go over them. If you guys have questions, just feel free to ask them, and I'll do my best to try to answer them. I'm not sure if Kelly is going to be joining us, but she is available with email, and also she's pretty active in the group, and we can post things in the group and make sure you get answers to your questions. But a couple of little pointers that there is a test at the end of this as a 40-question test, and it's a pretty easy test, but if you pay attention, you definitely have a problem. I don't think we've had anybody really not pass it yet. Maybe it takes a time or two to get the questions, but I think you need to get 36 of them right to pass and get your certificate. And we have a very nice, by the way, we have a very nice certificate that Sherry spent a lot of time on, and looks really pretty. And I thought maybe I had one, but I don't. We'll show you one next week. And definitely suitable for framing. But in that test, I know there is at least 2 questions from this video. And I don't want to, let the cat out of the bag and let you know what they are, but we'll go over them. And I think they're really appropriate and really good things to know. But so some of the things that I got out of it, and we'll go back over some of these things that I think were really important and really great for me to remember, that I hope you will find important too, is first off, the way that she starts it out, is in letting go of the outcome. I think that is a great thing to start out any kind of treatment with, or really any kind of project or thing that you're starting. If you let go of the outcome, it always seems to be a little bit easier. So that was a really nice thing. And what a great mindset that she has. Just a great attitude and a great mindset. And I think that many of her handling techniques are absolutely applicable to horses. Obviously, you're dealing with a much bigger body, but all the different things, the pointers that she had on ways to set the environment, I think are applicable. They're also applicable, I think, with people too. And I really liked the fact that it's funny that she mentioned at the very end that she's empathic. And if you don't know what that means, that they have very strong empathy or feelings for others. They can really feel the feelings for others. I'm not sure if everybody knows that. I happen to know that because Sherry is very empathic. And as I was watching her, I'm like, God, she's so much like Sherry. And in the end, she says, oh, yeah, and I'm very empathic. So, which is a really great thing because you're really in tune with the other people, but it can have its downside in that you really get to take on other people's pains and issues and everything if you don't have a strong system to protect yourself and to set boundaries. So she talked several times about setting boundaries, and setting boundaries are very important. And it's you can set boundaries 2 ways. You can be very politically correct and very nice about it and yet firm, like she was, or you can just, like more like I am, where I'm more like, okay, you're in my space, you're bothering me, I'll go away. But I would definitely tend to do the way that she does, by setting boundaries and then really telling the owner that you are focusing on the dog, and that's where your attention is, and not having to talk all the time. Some people, they just don't feel comfortable with having it quiet, and so they'll want to talk all the time. You're like, okay, I really want to focus on the animal and what I'm doing. And by telling them in a very nice way, and setting those boundaries, you really will set yourself up for a much more productive treatment. So that I thought was just fantastic, the way that she positioned the whole treatment, and then the way that she set the environment and set the environment in several different ways to make sure that it was very, very safe. Not only physically safe, like the animal was, the dog was on, she went to great lengths to make sure that the dog was comfortable and that it would not be injured if it jumped off the table or whatever. But also emotionally, and that the animal had the emotional safety, by telling her that, mentally saying that I am here to help. I did that, that was part of my thing going into into a stall or treating a new horse is mentally trying to connect with them, telling them that it's going to be okay, that I'm here to help, and I'm going to make you feel better, and creating that safe environment that you're in. So and then the whole thing about releasing the bladder meridian, it's funny how many similarities that she has with the horse side, because that bladder meridian and doing the stroke, I can't remember the name of that she says, but that stroke that opens up all of the pathways for all the different organs and going down the bladder meridian, that is the same protocol that we use for calming technique called the unwind technique. And if you have a horse that's really nervous, you do that same thing, and in like one breath, one stroke. Well, for a horse, it's a lot longer stroke, but you're basically going from their pole all the way down the back of their back on either side of their backbone, going all the way down the back, all the way down to the tail. And now that she's talks about it, I wonder if you should even just go all the way down the hamstrings and everything. So that is the unwind protocol, and very effective for calming a horse down. And you have to do it at 7.8 frequency is the best, and do it very, very slowly. I think that would be a very good practice to start out with, and do that 3 times on horse before you start. I'm sure that would be, it's not something that I did, but I'm sure that would be a really good practice to get into. The one thing that I can tell you that I thought was really great that we have kind of implemented, that is this idea of the list. And I can't tell you if it's going to be on the test, but I would remember that one, list. So that list stands for love, and this is the things that you do. And if you were busy doing other things, I'm going to go over this again, because I think is really, really a key thing, to start out each session with this list. The list of the list. The L is for love, and setting your intention for love. The I is for intention, and what your intention is for the session. And then the S is the surroundings, and make sure your surroundings are conducive to getting a really good treatment. I used to, being in the barns and everything, and this one barn that I would go to, they played this music so loud, and it was not like conducive music that would be soothing. It was like really just like head banging music, and then they would be doing the blowers and all that stuff, and I started to realize that at that barn, I just needed to come after all the grooms had left and the music had died down and all the activity had stopped. And then as soon as I started doing that, I noticed a huge difference in the treatments. I was still doing the same thing, but I just got a lot better results. And the owners noticed better results, and you could tell that you got better results with the horse. I mean, like they were seeing the releasing signs that she talked about so much. And then touch. And I love this this thing about being confident yet gentle. And that really is the kind of touch that you want to have with horses, with people, with anything that you're treating. You want to have a confident touch, but it want it to be gentle. And Kelly did just a really great job of explaining that. So that's the list: love, intentions, surroundings, and touch. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that's on the test. So, and then the way that she looks at the release, I think that is really the key to getting a good treatment, is looking for the release. Looking for the release in anything, in people, in the dogs, in pets, in anything. You don't know them, you could see the difference with that dog was her eyes got all soft and she got all blinky, and her lips, she started licking and chewing, versus the other that Kelly talked about, being a tight-lipped and hard-eyed. You can see that with horses. If you're paying attention, if you're keyed into them, you can see these releases happen. And it's funny that I always get such a kick of how everybody is doing this treatment really the way that I thought it up. The whole idea of the 2-minute thing, the magic behind the 2-minute thing was that in the beginning there was no timer or anything. In fact, people said, "Oh, you can't do it for more than 4 minutes. Otherwise you're gonna, I don't know what's gonna happen. What they thought people would happen. You can't do it more than 2 minutes or 4 minutes." I started noticing that after about 90 seconds, I got relief. And once I started noticing that, then I started paying attention to when I felt, and at the time, I was treating my back and my hip, and I had horrible back pains, and my hip, they kept telling me my hip needed to be replaced. And so my back pain would go into my hip, and I would pulse my hip, and it would just be like, oh my God, it would hurt so bad. Of course, I was probably doing it too high, but I would notice that in about, all of a sudden, I would notice, actually it started out, I just started reading a book as it was going, and I said, I'm just going to leave it there and try to get through it. And then I would notice, hey, it just kind of faded away. What happened? And then I would turn it up, and oh, there it is again. And then I would really be feeling it. And then all of a sudden I'd start reading a couple of pages, it would fade away. So I said, I'm going to start timing this. And sure enough, like clockwork, 90 seconds, 90 seconds, 90 seconds. Then I started watching the horses and when they got released. And I said, that's so weird that in about 90 seconds, they start licking and chewing. They'll change their posture. They'll get these, show me that they're getting relief. I'm like, is it just me, or am I just imagining this? And then as I really started experimenting with that and really consciously watching it not only from when I treated horses, but when Sam treated horses, when Sherry got treated. So I started doing it with all kinds of different, with all kinds of different people and stuff. It became almost an obsession with me of what is the deal with this 90-second thing. And then I said, there is really something to this. You get relief at 90 seconds. And then I found out the whole physiology about how that's really the first, that it takes that long for the cells to open up and the oxygen nutrients to start flowing out. The waste and the toxins start flowing out and the oxygen nutrients start flowing in and resuming the flow of the waste and everything, and that reestablishes the thing. So once I realized that there really is a physiological reason for the 90 seconds. The best thing it is like my phone didn't have a 90-second timer and it had 2 minutes. And I found out that, well, it takes a little while to get on the right area. And then you want to let it go a little bit while afterwards. So I started doing 2 minutes. And once I started doing 2 minutes, I started getting really, really consistent results. And then I started teaching that, telling everybody else, hey, try it for 2 minutes. Do it a minimum 2 minutes. And everybody's like, that's too long. Like, how can you stand there for that long? And but then other people started doing it and they started getting great results too. And now it's kind of established. So that 2 minutes. But what you're really looking for outside of the time's a framework. What the real thing that you're really looking for is that release. And when you see that release, I think Sam gets phenomenal results. And a lot of times she gets these so much better results than other people. And she asks, well, why do I get these results that is better than other people? And she really, really consciously watches for that release. If she doesn't get that release, she'll stay there. I mean, sometimes I'm like, okay, Sam, I think it's time to move on. But she will stay on a spot and move it around like, oh, I'm just not getting it. How come? I know there's soreness there, but how come I'm just not getting the response? And so she'll kind of hunt around for that, and all of a sudden you'll almost guaranteed that you'll find, oh, here is the area that we just weren't getting before. And man, look at it pulse. And then you stay on it. 90 seconds later, the horse is going like, oh, thank you. Or the person, or the dog. So that's the whole magic around the 2 minutes. And that's the magic around the release. That's, if you don't know what the release is, you really need to really pay attention, be consciously there for the animal, the horse, the person, whoever it is that you're treating, and really watch that. And you'll notice that there is a time that things, all of a sudden, it will just change. There will just be this softening, just like, oh. So that probably, I think that one thing, if you could just get that one thing right, you would be a great PEMF practitioner. Because the rest of it is just like finding those spots. So you find the spots, wait until you get the release, you got it. That's it. No matter what you're treating, who you're treating, where you're treating it. So the learning the anatomy and everything is great. Absolutely fantastic. It's great to know the muscles, know all the names and everything, but you don't need to know anything if you know and you can see the release. So, and then I also, another thing that she brought up that is an important point if you're taking the test was that the stifle is the weakest joint in the body. That was one that I got wrong. I'm sorry. And now, like, when she said that, I'm like, oh, that's where it was. And she actually tells you why the stifle joint is the weakest joint in the body. And so if you hear me say something 3 times, it's probably going to be on the test. So did I say that the stifle joint is the weakest joint on the body? I don't know. I think I did. And then also that the mirror reflex, I didn't even know about that. I didn't know that there was a mirror reflex, and that if you do treat one side, the body sends it over to the other side. That's a really nice thing, especially when you're dealing with injured horses and injuries where you have compensatory, really compensatory sorenesses. I see compensatory soreness as being, the really number one thing that makes horses or people have a hard time recovering from their injury. They will build up so much imbalances on the other side that they're borrowing from, that once they really start going back to work, those other sides are so weak and so overstressed that they're so susceptible to injury. And if you treat regularly and treat the whole body, you have much less chance of that happening. So and then the last couple things were that, her mentally telling people that she is there to help. That is another really, I think, a big, big, big key of really setting the stage and getting the environment, both their mental state as well as the physical state, to conducive. So those are my big things that I took away from this. Do you guys have some questions? Are you guys still there? Did I put you to sleep? I can unmute everybody. Here, I'm unmuting everybody. You never know what's going to happen. Hello.
Hello.
What did you guys first off, what did you guys think of Kelly and her presentation?
Good.
Do you guys, hi. Do you guys treat dogs?
Yes. Not yet. Or go. I don't need your help.
Treating dogs is great. They really have very rewarding. They are very, 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 very sensitive, though. That's one of the things we can be very aware of. So, all right. Well, if you guys don't have any questions.
But no, so you never been married, you never had kids. Well, that's good. So when was your last relationship?
Right? You guys have questions? So next week it is going to be we're going to talk about really the competition, all the different competitive devices that are out there, and answer any questions that you guys have. So if you've got questions as you go through it, put it on the group, the Facebook group. It's really a great way to stay engaged and get everybody else's response as well as ours. And so we're love to see you guys talk on the group and be involved there. So so all right. Well, this was a good one. I loved Kelly and the dogs, and hope you guys other people that have really looked to expand their practice have started doing dogs and have had great success. If you're doing horses, well, a lot of people that have horses also have dogs, and if you just open it up to them and be open to doing it, it's really not hard. I think you see how similar it was to treating a horse. The biggest thing with the dog is just to make sure it's turned down and just be very, very gentle with it, and see how they're so sensitive to it. But once they start doing it, gosh, they absolutely love it. Our dogs, we turn the machine on and they like jump in our lap. So, all right. Well, if nobody has any more questions, we're going to wrap this thing up. And thank you all for joining us. We had a good turnout tonight, so it was really great. And